The Chief Justice of Nigeria, Kudirat Kekereekun, has condemned what she described as blanket allegations of corruption being deployed in recent times against the judiciary. And now, while admitting that judges and justices were not infallible in the course of their judicial duties, Justice Kekereekun warned that tagging the entire judiciary as corrupt had a way of weakening the institution and hurting the integrity of a lot of judges and justices who had been laboring faithfully in the discharge of their duties. She spoke on Wednesday shortly after she administered the oath of office to 40 new judges of the Federal High Court at the headquarters of the Supreme Court in Abuja. Lawyer and public affairs analyst Jimmy Abia joins us now. It's good to have you with us, Jimmy.
A pleasure being with you.
Very good. So what do you think prompted the CJN's caution?
I read what the CJN said. Part of what the CJN said was also that citizens should utilize the disciplinary procedures, that there are disciplinary procedures existing which can be utilized, for instance, through the NJC. So telling citizens to activate that procedure rather than just making wild allegations. If taking it from that context, I think the CJN has a valid point in the sense that the institution of the judiciary already has disciplinary systems in place. However, if it extends to now policing public commentary or public opinion, I think we do not have, the judiciary does not have that powers, does not have that right to police public opinion. It is a right guaranteed under the Constitution: freedom of thought, freedom of expression, freedom of conscience, and also freedom of the media and freedom of expression, just like I said. So just like Nelson Mandela said, which has recently been reminded us by Prince Nduka Obaegbena, he reminded us that freedom is not just to cast off one's chains, but to respect the freedoms of others. So while the judiciary is concerned about protecting the integrity of the judiciary must also be concerned about respecting the rights of Nigerian citizens to commentaries and freedom to express themselves.
Way to plug Licky there. I see what
you did. Of course.
I see what you did there.
Yeah.
Now, is there a risk that this caution can act as something of a gag order that could stop whistleblowers or even lawyers from flagging suspicious conduct for fear as being labeled as, delegitimizing the institution? Of course,
if the idea is to now police public thought, of course it can cause a level of fear in the minds of the public, in the sense that members of the public who have opinions to share, may not, and especially members of the legal profession who have opinions to share, may not be willing to be confident enough and courageous enough to come out in the public and share those opinions. But like I said, the Constitution has guaranteed, and it is a part of democracy that people should be able to express their opinions. There's something, a common opinion, a common, sentiment in Nigeria that where a court gives a judgment, that people should not criticize that judgment. But that is not correct. The same way people have the right to support the judgment of court, to air opinions in favor of a judgment of court, is the same way people have the right to analyze, to criticize, judgments of court. That is what enables democracy to thrive, that ability of the public to express their opinion and have it being taken into consideration in affairs about governance and affairs that affect them.
Indeed, Jimmy. Now, when public criticisms are fact-based, after a lot of investigation, as it were, and depending on the severity of a scenario, what are the prospects of disciplinary actions on the accused, especially when these accused are highly placed judicial officers, especially in legal terms? You already mentioned that there are procedures for having this done, but when they come in from the public, investigated, and is being found to be proven. Your thoughts?
That's why it's important that what I think the judiciary and the legal profession should be doing is to focus more on educating the public on the process through which to activate that disciplinary process. There is a disciplinary process, and the public needs to know that disciplinary process. Secondly, it's also important that that disciplinary process is seen to be carried through. So, for instance, where allegations are made, and there's evidence to show, that these infractions were committed, you expect to see serious sanctions. It's not just a pat on the back, but you expect to see serious sanctions, and let those sanctions be also made well known in the public space. When people see this, people will trust that system, more, and feel more confident going to that system to complain rather than going to the public space, to complain. Of course, which they have the right, to go to the public space and complain.
Indeed.
And there's this seeming, impression that judges are helpless. No, judges are not entirely helpless in the system, in the scheme of things. There is people can bring an action. Even a judge can bring an action in defamation. If someone makes an accusation against a judge, which is not, the judge feels strongly that this is not true, this cannot be supported, the judge can bring an action in defamation. So there's nothing stopping that. Again, there is also the process of contempt of court, and this applies to litigants, people who are before the court, or lawyers who are, before the court. So these procedures can also. So the law has provided avenues for each person, each group, to express themselves, to express their rights. So it is not for now for us to now start talking, looking at gagging the public, policing public sentiments, because first of all, we cannot achieve it. We cannot, truly achieve it in a democracy. And then secondly, it further doing those reduces public, sentiment about the judiciary, because if you have nothing to hide, then you wouldn't want to police public opinion. So that sentiment being expressed by, certain persons, certain members of the judiciary and certain members of the legal profession, that public should stop criticism, stop making commentary. It's not in the interest of even the legal profession. It is not in the interest of the judicial system, because it further reduces. I mean, if you don't have anything to hide, then you shouldn't be telling people not to air their opinions.
Indeed.
Yeah, and we know with the 2027 general elections approaching, the CJN has warned against political capture.
Yes.
Is the demand for evidence-based criticism something of a preemptive move in order to shield the courts from, the inevitable fallout of post-election petitions?
Well, evidence-based criticism on its own is what is expected. I mean, if you are going to accuse someone pointedly of committing an infraction, then you should have some evidence. So it is all right to, admonish people to make their allegations evidence-based, but not to police them, not to say that they cannot comment on their opinion or their impression of the judicial system or the justice delivery system in Nigeria. No, but we can admonish and say, please, when you're making this, try and ensure, in order to help us to also put that system in check, help us by also bringing evidence. So it is also in our interest that it is evidence-based, but not for us to now police public opinion and then insist that for anybody, before you make a commentary, you must bring that evidence. No, that is not what the law requires in a democracy.
All right. I would like you to assess the work of the National Judicial Council when it comes to the discipline of erring members of the judiciary. How far has this gone in instilling that public confidence in the judicial process, you think? And how much of their, sanctions have been made public, as it were?
Yes, I think the NJC has done some creditable work in recent times. There have been lists of judges who have faced disciplinary action that have been made public in times. But like I said, I think more needs to be done, to let the members of the public see that these things are being done.
Well, Jimmy, Abia, it's always great to have you on the program. Thank you for joining us here on Newsday.
Thank you.
My pleasure.